Hello, it's good to be with you again to share some information on Black History Month. I'm Perry Irby, and I'm a student of history. I love history. I love collecting antique things from my childhood day or the days back when most of us lived in the rural, lived on farm. And so I want to share a few items with you for this Black History presentation. The things I selected for this presentation has to do primarily with farming and farm equipment. We had we had mules, and we had mule wagon. Of course, we baled hay to feed our mules, but the big thing is we had to get our mules ready for working the next day. So we had to harness them up or get them ready. And I want to show you some of the things that we use to get our mules and our horses, we had horses also, ready for working the next day. One of the piece of equipment that would slip over the horses or mule head, in this case a mule's head, and we would put this brow on the mule, called a brow, and it simply went around his neck, and this portion of it was fit close to his eyes, basically to keep him looking forward while we were working in the road, so that he would not be tempted to eat up the corn or the grain that was growing in the field. This portion of it was known as a bit, which would go into his mouth, and then you had a string attached, and you would pull back on it, and sometimes there was words that were attached to it that the animal learned to respond to the word. For example, G meant go left, ha meant the mule would go right, and when you would pull back on it, that meant he would stop. And sometimes we would just give a click, and then he would go forward. Helping him out was what he had on was what we call a collar. Excuse me, a collar. He had a collar on. This collar would go around his neck like this, around his neck, and then this portion of it was where you would attach your rope in order to make him go right and go to the left. And so when you pull back on the rope, you could turn him to the right, turn him to the left. So see, he wore this, and he got a good cleaning each time he finished. And we would attach the rope. We would attach the equipment or the plow to what we call a single tree, which would hook up to the plow, and it was able to plow the row of cotton or the row of corn or tobacco or what it may be. But you could not do it without the faithful mule. We had a mule named Rhodey, a horse named Rhodey, a mule named Mag. They all had that name, and Reddy. And Reddy, those are our three farm animals. Back in the day, people would pick cotton, and I remember my grandfather was a large farmer. He had not only a large peach orchard, but he also had a lot of cotton. He planted a lot of cotton, and so when you pick cotton, one of the things you do, and after you had picked the cotton and it weighed it out, you would pay you about 2 cents a pound, 2 cents per pound of cotton, or 50 cents an hour. So you could work all day, you was getting 50 cents an hour or 2 cents a pound per cotton. Sadly, I was not able to pick cotton very well, so they took me out of the cotton field. But a person who worked hard could pick 200 pounds of cotton in a day, and they normally paid you on the spot, and then they normally weighed it in the spot. And to weigh it, they had to have the assistant of this particular weigher, and they would put the cotton on a large cloth and stack it up, and then they would take the weight and attach it to here, and usually this was hooked to a pole. A man would stand on the right and one would stand on the left, hold this up, and then they would weigh that cotton and tell you whether you had 125 pounds, 150 pounds, or 200 pounds. In my case, they said you had 50 pounds of cotton. So my daddy took me out of the field. But one of the good things we did, after picking the cotton, we would load it on the truck, and then they would carry it to the cotton gin. And the cotton gin is where they separated the seed from the cotton, and then they used the cotton so you could make the nice clothes that we are wearing. And then they would bale it. Now this is a miniature version of a cotton a bale of cotton after it had been processed. And found this at an antique store down in Colorways, South Carolina. But this was is symbolic of about a 500-pound bale of cotton, but it's small like this. And so that's what they would ship out to different places around the world. And then you would go to like France or Paris or London and have some fashionable clothing. Let's step back to the farm again, and I brought what's called a miniature version of a milk machine. Milk, and we call it a churn. The churn was simply a place you pour your milk in it after milking the cow by hand, and then it had a little hole in the top of the container. You put your stick in, pour your sweet milk, your milk had cream in it. After it had set a while, a few days, and then the cream would kind of rise to the top. And the children, we would get around and we would play a game and sing a song. And one of the songs we used to sing as we would churn the milk, they called churning the milk by hand. They would call come buttermaid, come buttermaid. Peter standing at the gate waiting for the buttermaid to come. And then that was what you get, that's where you got your butter from. I remember also, as I hurry to close, is that when we ironed clothes, or they ironed clothes back then, there was no electricity, so you put this on the fireplace, and then you warm it up, and this is how you iron your clothes. You iron each piece, and it would just come out just like you to the laundromat today. And while you was listening, ironing clothes or churning milk, you were listening to the good old-fashioned radio. And as you listen to the radio, maybe you were listening at Joe Louis in a fight, boxing match. And at night, one other item, you had a homemade stove, heater, and you put the coal in, the hot ashes, and you take these two handles and keep the fire, the coal hot or turned up, and that's how you kept the room warm at night. One other thing I'll share, we had what we call a duster. A duster would kill the worms off of your plants. And that's pretty much what happened on a life on a farm and during Black History Month. And back in the slave days, they made their own music. And this is an old homemade banjo that the slaves would make, and they would play music and dance to it. And so this is what I wanted to share with you, a step back in time. And maybe didn't get it all And these are a few things that you will see in the life of our people. I hope that you enjoy this empowering moment, this moment to take you a step back in time so that you can appreciate our heritage. Thank you and have a good day.